Welcome back to the Webby O'Neill channel. In today's video, we're going to take a look at our expectations for Manchester United season. And to be honest with you, I just fancied a change from the same old copy and paste of Man United transfers every single day. And to be perfectly blunt, I can't wait until that transfer window closes, so we know what we've actually got going into the season. But that's just me at the moment, and I thought we'd have a bit of a chat, get your opinions involved today so we can discuss them. And don't forget to smash that like button. Let's get up to that 800 mark to 1,000 mark on today's video and support your channel. Your expectations going into the season?
Well, I'm expecting you to cheer up. Mr. Grumpy here, I've had him all day, so we're coming up with our expectations. So Mr. Grumpy here might cheer up. Listen, it's clear as day as far as I'm concerned. The expectations where Manchester United are going to finish in the league is fifth. I think the gap is too big for Man United to get to claw back there. I think all the signings, they won't close the gap. I think we'll be hard to beat, but the gap for me is too big.
Too big. Where Man United finished last season was 8th. Villa finished in 4th. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that was only 8 points. And you've got to take into consideration here Manchester United's injuries last season. You know, some of our main players, especially in the back four, Martinez, I think, played 11 games in the league. Luke Shaw, I think, was 8 games in the league. If we can keep them two players fit for the majority of the games, I know Luke Shaw's a big, big ask, but our main players fit, surely we're going to be pushing there or thereabouts.
Pushing Villa. Villa are in the Champions League. I don't think they'll do what Newcastle did. Newcastle got in the Champions League, finished bottom, just like Man United, but they just collapsed in the league and went right out of everything. I think Villa are more stronger than Newcastle, and I think with the manager they've got, the history, what he's got in Europe and everything, I think he'll guide him. I think it'll be tough for him, but I think they've got enough to still hang on in that 4th place. Newcastle just faded away.
With you saying Aston Villa, I think they bought a top player in that Onana from Everton. I know there's a lot of noise around United with Braithwaite.
Yeah.
But and what you look at the comparison in what the fees were, I think Onana went for, is it about £50 million? Everton wanted 75 for Braithwaite. And for me, out of the two players, I'd be snatching Onana over Braithwaite every single day. I think he'll develop into a top player under Unai Emery. A little bit suspect sometimes on his passing, but he's a young lad, and I think he'll improve there. I think he'll be one of the top midfielders to come in the next 4 to 5 years.
I think with the manager Villa have got, I think they'll just sort of stick in there. I don't think they'll collapse like Newcastle. I look at the games, what we lost. I don't think we'll lose as many games like we did last year. I think we'll do a draw. I think Erik Ten Hag has got to change his mentality. We've got to see what happens on there. He always wants to win, and I think that mentality actually cost us a lot of games because his in-game management was always pushing and pushing and pushing, where we'd concede goals. We just conceded shots after shots. It was like an avalanche at times. So stopping the opposition is the main thing to do. And once we start doing that, we can get more points than what we did last year and try and push up there. And I think one of the 4 teams has to have a total collapse. We will be strong, but will we be consistent? Will we have that level of consistency all the way through? I don't think so. If you look around, we've got lots of young players. Yes, they'll have good times and that, but they will fade away and they will have to be rested. But are the players good enough, what are on the bench and in the squad, to come on and carry that level, what Erik Ten Hag wants and what we all want? I don't think so. I think when you look at the midfield, I think that's the problem. That was the problem last year, and nothing has changed. That's why I'm looking at 5th. 5th should be the minimum we go for, and if one of the team fails in the top 4, then I think there's a possibility we could grab it. But my biggest worry is that midfield, and will Casemiro and Mainu be able to do the full season? I doubt it very, very much.
My Journey United, John Royal, Ines Fuchsia, thanks for all getting involved in the chat, and everyone else, keep getting your opinions in on your expectations for Man United season. I picked up on the word consistency there, but we're only going to get consistency in terms of results if we have consistent players starting in that starting 11 week in, week out, and that'll only happen if we suffer less injuries than what we've done last season, and I'm hopeful for that.
Well, I know you're hopeful. We're all hopeful. You mentioned Shaw. the amount of games what he had, the amount of games what Martinez had. Yeah. If they keep fit, then that back four, the defence is solid, and that's what you want. You want a solid defence. But the problem is with the defence and the forwards is the gap, and it's the midfield. And I've seen no change in personnel at this moment in time to give me confidence that that gap will be sorted out and that the players in it are capable, right, of running through our forwards and getting into that box. I just don't see it. So the defence, I'm comfortable with the defence. That's why I said at the beginning, I don't think we'll lose as many games as we did last year. If you go back to last year, Newcastle away, Nottingham Forest away, they were poor games defensively to lose. That won't happen this year. Erik Ten Hag, he's got a new coaching regime going in there. There seems to be an upbeat with the players and the camp all around. I think we will be hard to beat, but turning them hard to beat games into wins was very, very difficult last year. So the standards have got to go up. I think the standards will go up in certain areas, but it's the midfield. That is my biggest problem, and that's why I say getting fifth, I would take it right now. Fifth. I'd take it right now.
Maybe a possibility for us to qualify for the Champions League if we finish fifth this season for the Champions League the following season. Paul O'Brien, cheers for your super chat.
Thank you.
Listening to you from Spain as we speak. Love your work, lads. Not too happy we don't have a new midfielder in yet. Michael Vine, I'm not giving a prediction until the transfer window closes. Well, give us one, mate, anyway, so we can take a look at it and get it read out. Lollipop says our goal difference has to be so much better this season. And I think last season in the Premier League, roughly, I think we conceded over 500 shots on goal, with something roughly around about 193 of them shots being on target. And like you say, we must be much more compact and harder to beat to have any chance of winning games going forward. And that's just the basics. Everyone knows we need to do that.
Yeah, we have to be compact. And like you just said there in the super chat, right, the midfield. I know out there, and I speak to many, many United fans, and consistently, all it is the midfield. We need a midfielder. We need two midfielders, okay? We're too wide apart. That has to change. That's all I'm hearing. So the reality there is United fans are talking about it. Do understand what the problem is. We've got a couple of strikers there. We could play a false nine. We've got a strong back four now. Well, it looks a strong back four if they stay fit, but that midfield hasn't changed. And people are aware of what the problem is. So that's the reality where we are. Now, it might change. We might get somebody in, but really, we don't want one. We need two. This is a long-term thing here, what Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe are trying to turn around. So I just want consistency. And if I see the consistency where we draw games and we don't lose them, like we was last year, and we change the mentality, and Erik Ten Hag changes his mentality, then I'm happy with fifth. And I think that is the reality, and people should be happy with that. Going into the Champions League, right, with a team what just scrapes in there, that's no good. This is a long-term project, and I think you have to see progression. You have to see things changing on the pitch. But what we have to see is a midfield what is working with the defence and the forwards, and I don't see that happening at this moment.
Yeah, like you're touching on the Champions League there, we've not made it past the quarter-final stage since we got to the final at Wembley against Barcelona. Was that 2010-11? Obviously, I've had a few sleeps since then. But a couple of good questions here in the chat. One from Craig says, there's hope after the last decade. We should be grateful for that. Keep the red flag flying high, and let's see where we end up in May. Great chat, that, mate. Gabrielle also says, and I do agree with this. Don't get me wrong, though. I do understand that it is light in midfield and we need to add to that. But Gabrielle says, the midfield is not too bad. It's the lack of a stable defence last season that affected the middle of the park. And I do agree with that. Because you look at the emphasis that he puts on the back four, Erik Ten Hag, in the way he wants to play out from the back. And his two centre-halves, one of them stepping into midfield to make that extra body up as well.
Well, I can see there's two sides to this with the midfield and the back four. We know the back four was decimated many times But if you look at the midfield, how it played last year and how poor it was in receiving the ball from the back four, from the goalkeeper, it was poor. If you look at how they were getting caught out by going for the goal, trying to get a win when we was drawing and then conceding by giving the ball away up top. Our midfield players last year were too slow getting back. And if you look at Casemiro, he's come back this year. He looks lean. He looks fit. But how long will that last? And if you look at his performances last year, everybody last year was criticising Casemiro for the way he was tackling, how he couldn't get back. He was too slow. He was chasing players and bringing them down, getting booked, the occasional red card. That was Casemiro. Is that going to be the same this year? Because that's the same what we've got. He needs.
I understand that.
We need other people in there, okay, to change that. And our players need to be fearless in midfield and collect the ball from the back four and the goalkeeper. That's what he wants. That's how he wants to style Erik ten Hag.
No, I do get that with the midfield. I do. But you've also got to say that about the rest of the team in terms of getting back, helping out to defend. And that goes for the back four, the full-backs, the centre-halves, and in particular, the two wide players as well, making sure that there's a partnership there, helping out at the back and also going forward as well, because I didn't see enough of that from the two wide players last season in the majority of the games.
No, we didn't see enough of that last year. It was few and far between, to be honest with you. But that's what Erik ten Hag wants this year. Now, if you look at the Fulham game, people weren't tracking back. There was still that gap. If you look at that second half, sometimes early in the first half against Fulham, the gaps were there. They were coming through. So really, you have to sort of look at the Fulham game and say, first game of the season, people not fitting that. So consistency is what we're looking for. I think if you see a run of consistency with players working hard, working for each other, something what was lacking last year, change of mentality, that's what you want. And that's the least you want, people working for each other. But I think it's going to be very hard to do for the full season. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, to maintain that actual standard
to
going
get
forward.
Fifth, to get fourth, I don't think it will be there as it stands with the team and the players we've got now.
Yeah. Richard Clare, welcome to our members club.
Thank you.
One Loft Tracing says, if we get Agati in midfield and stay injury-free, we will finish in the top three. Big shout there, mate. Antel says he don't see us bringing in Agati. Don't know if you remember, but I said weeks ago, I felt PSG were just playing games, a bit of Qatar revenge. Dan Fenton's gone for the full lot here. I'm saying top four and a Europa League win. Agati in, and we would have had a good transfer window. In terms of a transfer window, if we did get Agati in and the players we've already got, do you see that as a good transfer window? Nothing more, nothing less?
I think if Agati came in, it would help the midfield. I'd be a little bit more confident, but it's more than one player we need in that midfield. You know, Dan's just said there, yeah, going for the top three and winning the Europa. That midfield, as I look at it, and I think many other United fans look at it, is weak to go that full length, to compete in the Europa League, to compete and try and get in the top four. It's a long, hard season. Football has got harder. The pace is faster, okay? So them midfield players at some point will need a rest. Bringing Ugarte in will help, but will it be this? Will it solve the problem? No, I don't think so.
Anthony says, not a chance. Accepting fifth is a joke. It's not accepting fifth.
No.
It's trying to look at things in a proper reality and perspective of where this squad currently stands up against the other Premier League teams, and especially where we finished last season. For me personally, I actually said in our Premier League predictions video on our members channel that I think we'll finish third, and it'll be tight between us and Liverpool. You'll get that third spot where Liverpool could finish third and us finish fourth. But that's maybe a bit of wishful thinking. But for me, I'm positive going into the season after some of the changes I've seen made inside Manchester United, not on the pitch, but inside the club with football people making decisions now. And let's face it, it's going to take more than one summer transfer window. This is Ineos's first window, and I think it'll take at least 2 or 3 to actually see a proper team where we can compete at the top. That's just my personal opinion. Yeah,
I don't think anyone out there can accuse me of not being positive towards my team. I have consistently, when people have gone against what they see, United are going to win or United are going to lose and this is rubbish, that's rubbish. I'm always positive, okay? I don't want to turn up on a match day being negative. I'm positive for my team, always have been, always will be. But I just see that how are we, with this midfield, going to close the gap? Look at the points difference from City. How long's that going to take? That's what I'm talking about, the reality. And then you look at Villa, okay? Yes, 8 points. Is it a big difference? No, I don't think it is. But I still think Aston Villa, and people have to look at what the opposition is. They're stronger. They're going to get better. Have we got better than them this year? That's how I'm looking at it. And I don't think so. I think we'll improve. I think the football will improve. I think the style will improve. But we will have struggles. That is the reality. We need more players in that midfield because they're going to be flogged and they end up flogged like a, I don't know what.
Yeah.
Some horse. Woof.
Yeah. And you're talking about struggles. As we know, every player throughout the actual season have dips in form.
Yes.
And Kobbie Mainoo, Casemiro, they will have their dips in form.
Yes.
But when they do, who've we got to come in to replace them so we can sort of still keep a level of quality going week after week?
Yeah.
And that's what my fear is, especially when we've lost already Sophie and Amrabat, who's a backup to, like, let's say, Casemiro. Some out there might have said he was in front of Casemiro, but I don't agree with that. So we need to replace him anyway. And then for me, we're going to need to bring in an extra body just to make sure we've got some quality in depth.
Well, you talk about the quality and all that. Listen, if people go back 4 or 5 months, everyone was right on the back of Casemiro. Right on the back of Casemiro. So what's changed? What is now changing in the minds of United fans from 4 or 5 months ago that Casemiro's finished at Man United to now being the answer in midfield? So answer that. That's what you've got to question now yourselves and look at what everybody has been saying. The media, everything. He's out of the club. He's going. He's overweight. He's not fit. He's not good enough. 4 or 5 months ago, everyone was on Casemiro's back. And at the moment, there is nothing to change that opinion. The midfield is still weak. It's not strong. And it won't last as it stands now. So try and convince me any different. Simple as, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nothing's changed. And I keep going on, the reality, that's the reality. I'm positive for United, and I think Casemiro will do well, but it will turn bad for him. It will turn. He will wilt at some point, just like Mainoo will, just like Ahmad will, just like Garnacho will. The young players, they will wilt. Is the quality there at this moment in time? No.
But you had to look back on,
in my opinion,
on the start of last season when we started off. I think Garnacho started the first 4 games roughly, and then Ten Hag took him out of the squad, didn't he? Which I think was a good bit of management, considering then how he performed for the rest of the season. And you want that in the team where you've got that depth to be able to do that. And obviously we suffered with injuries, etc. But going into the chat, Lars Godfrey said, we only have midfielders that want to get rid of the ball. Instead, we need a midfielder that would control our game.
Great.
The back 4 will be good this year, and that will help. And yeah, bang on with that. Martin also says about the Europa League, that won't be easy to win either, because there's a lot of people mentioning that we could win that this season.
Well, I'm not too sure about that Europa League. It's not as easy as people think. I think people are just looking on paper and thinking, oh yeah, if we do that, we'll win. No, this is a hard competition. Hard competition. It's got harder over the years. I think we will struggle in it as the latter stages come on. But, you know, you talk about players. Look at Ahmad. Garnacho last year, 4 games and then brought out. Ahmad could be the same here. And if you take Ahmad out, come on then, tell me what's the strength coming in there? Anthony? Okay. Same thing again as Casemiro. 4 or 5 months ago, everybody wanted him out of the club. So how can you rely on Anthony up in the game being better than Ahmad? I wasn't sure about Ahmad 12, 18 months ago. I think Ahmad is the future. I think he's exciting and everything. But will he last? No. So where is the backup for Ahmad? It's not Sancho. Certainly not Sancho. And it certainly ain't Anthony at this moment. So that's the reality. And that's why I keep saying I'd be happy with 5th. Because what we've got is a squad, a decent squad, but it ain't the strongest squad to go a full season and compete in the Europa League, in the Carabao Cup, in the FA Cup.
Yeah, the thing that I feared, if we do have one or two injuries to our main players, let's say like Martinez, Manu or a Casemiro at the same time. I mean, how many times did you see Man United last season really collapse towards the end of the game in a winning or an actual drawing position, and we end up getting beat? The team sometimes has that mentality for me where it collapses, but I do think some of the buys that they've bought this summer, especially like a De Ligt, I do generally think he's a leader and he's a possible future captain at Manchester United. I really do, especially if he progresses on the football field. But that's what a worry is for me, that if our certain main players are out through injury or suspensions, will we see a collapse like we have done last season and the season before at times as well?
I think what we all have to do, to be perfectly honest with you, is just look up there, have a few words with him up there and say, please, please keep Martinez fit, because the man is a warrior, he's a fighter and he's a leader. And at the back is exactly that's what you want. So fingers crossed for Martinez, because once Martinez goes, right, you've seen what happens in the back. You need a warrior there. And at the end of the day, if you look, Shaw as well. Shaw on his day is a good fullback, but we can't rely on him. And that's what I'm saying about the squad and a long season. And
we've got to be realistic with what we've got at the moment.
I'm optimistic, but I'm also being realistic. And I think fifth, when I look at all the problems, what are there now? Okay, with players in the background coming on to replace other people, I don't think it's strong enough to go forward and expect a top four. If we get a top four, I'll be over the moon.
Yeah.
I'll be over the moon. Yeah. Absolutely over the moon.
I might give you my right arm now.
Yeah. Well, maybe not my right arm. I might give you a finger. Right? But the thing is, I'll be over the moon with it. But the problem is the players coming in. I don't think it's strong enough yet to challenge, to compete. I think it's a work in progress. And I think maybe in about 2 years' time, I will be expecting to challenge and win things proper. But for now, fifth is there. Possibly we could sneak a fourth if there was a dramatic change in Aston Villa. But then you have to look at Newcastle. Newcastle will come back. Tottenham are in there fighting. They will fight. So there's a lot of moving parts here. I'm hopeful that we do well, but I'm happy to take fifth this year. As we go on, I will not be happy with fifth.
No, I do agree with that in certain aspects. And we've been talking about, obviously, the defence, the movement there with injuries, the goals we conceded last season. But up top as well, I mean, how many times were you and Webby and myself saying, everyone on the channel, that the wide players, the wingers, the midfield, that aren't crossing to the centre forward? And that's something that needs to change this year, because then you would hope that we'll score more goals as well.
Well, I was talking about Erik ten Hag's mentality and what he has to do in game management and all that earlier on. The centre forwards, they've got to change the mentality of the two wingers. We've brought Ruud van Nistelrooy in. People are expecting that to change now up top. So will Rashford change? Will he stop running down into just with his head down? Will Ahmad do the same? Will he have his head up? Will he be looking for the centre forward early? Will Garnacho? These are the things we're hopeful will change. We'll soon know in the next couple of weeks if it's changed.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, a bit of a divide with opinions. Some people aren't happy if we was to finish fifth. Would you be happy if we finished fifth and another domestic cup, let's say, the FA Cup as well? Would that be a good season? Would you see that as progress from last season? Other people still think we'll get in the top four. Some people are saying it's realistic to accept, like, sixth place, some people, but...
There will be, like, what some people saying we must have fourth, or I'm happy with fifth, or whatever, or we need this. But you have to look at United and just say to yourself, if the other teams falter, United are capable. But United cannot afford to lose 14 games. You cannot lose 14 games. If I see United losing 5-6 games, okay, that, to me, I'm happy with that, okay, because that's a big improvement. That's where the change has to come. We cannot lose that amount of games. And if we see United cut that to over half, then you've seen progression and you can see what's happening on the pitch. Like I said beforehand, We lost too many games last year and we have to turn them into draws. And that's all about mentality. So getting fifth, changing the mentality, not losing as many games. I see that as a good season and I see it good going forward. It's something to build on. This is the first full season of the new regime and the people in charge here, and Erik ten Hag getting more help than he ever had. It's change, getting less than half of the losses than we did last year. Picking up points, I think that's progression. And if it takes us into the fourth, fantastic. But I don't expect it to, because I still expect the teams to be strong, what was above us, because they've got themselves stronger as well this year.
Yeah, Nomad Joe says people have to remember their expectations. Fifth is actually progress over last season. Stephanie also says a trophy over the top four. And you've also got to think, what are Sir Jim Ratcliffe's, the suits behind the scenes, what are their expectations of where Manchester United should finish come the end of the season as well? And does the actual transfer spend this summer reflect where they expect us to finish this season in them Champions League places?
I personally think if we got fifth, I think they'd be happy and get a trophy. You've got to remember, Manchester United, they love trophies. We love trophies, right? And we can compete in trophies. So I think finishing fifth and getting a trophy would be absolutely, well, I think it'd be great. I think it's just a sign of progression going forward. Do we expect a trophy? Yes, to be realistic with you, I expect a trophy this year. I'm not sure which competition, but I expect a trophy. I expect United to fight for that trophy. That's what you should expect. United, really, not getting a trophy this year, when I think about it, will be poor. Yeah, getting fifth and no trophy, I think that's poor, considering we've been able, with what we've had over the last 2 years, to pick up 2 trophies. I think United should expect a trophy, right? I think we should demand the trophy and fifth.
Yeah, if you're looking at it, let's just say, for instance, you've got Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool. If they're going to finish, obviously, make up the top 3, who's then fighting for 4th place? You know, you've got, obviously, Aston Villa, Tottenham, people might say Chelsea, Newcastle, etc. Is it that really much of an ask, that really, for what the current squad stands at, for Man United to finish 4th? I think we've got a real chance of definitely qualifying for the Champions League, but finishing 4th.
Well,
when I'm looking at all the other teams, especially if we do get that midfielder in as well,
I think it's going to be tough. I think we'll know. It's about scoring goals. Will that false 9? Will that be used throughout the season? I don't know. I think the false 9 is actually used as more of a tactic of keeping possession, holding the ball, moving around, looking for the ball.
To make us more compact as well in that midfield area as well, and for Mainu, Casemiro to push up higher as well. We've seen Mason Mount, when it's been deployed in pre-season, in the first game of the season, he likes to start that press off like Bruno would do as well. The only thing that I've seen is it's not like everyone's working as a unit up to now of knowing when to start that press, because obviously there's an art to it and a tactic. You don't just go and run about as you please.
No. I think that's what it is.
That's what needs to be worked on.
Yeah, you'll see with the work, with the closing down. I've been critical of the closing down, whereas one man was doing. I mean, Mason Mount was doing it against Fulham on his own all the time he was on there. That's not the way to do it. So you need to see players get up to speed and then enact it, but not just for 5-10 minutes, which we've seen a lot last year. So there's a lot going on here at United. There's a lot of expectations. There's a lot of players what have got to up the game. And to be honest with you, we've got to see it with our own eyes first, and then the reality will set in that some players are doing it, some aren't, or the whole mentality has changed and they're all doing it. And my opinion here might go right out the window, and I might turn round by the time Christmas comes and goes, this team's on fire. But the reality tells me, this moment in time in life tells me that's not going to happen, because I still think we're weak. We're a weak squad, because the players, if they come out the team now, really, Ahmad comes out the team, is Anthony the answer? I don't think so. not at this moment in time. I hope he proves me wrong.
Yeah, there's a lot of players who need to step up, especially on the performances last season, and show that they've actually got a future here at Manchester United, because I think that's going to be a lot more competitive now going forward under Ineos. But I'd just like to thank you all for joining us today, getting involved in the chat. Loads of different opinions in there, and it looks like everyone's been getting on as well, and that's the main thing.
Yes.
Always remember and respect everyone else's opinion. If you want to support the channel, let's smash a like on the video, help the channel out on today's video, and we'll be back tomorrow morning, because I can't wait to actually do a match preview for Manchester United versus Brighton. I expect it to be an absolute... Oh, well, I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a great game of football, to be honest. So try and get that notification on for tomorrow morning, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.